Greetings, everyone. Thanks for joining me today to learn all about salmon and to sketch and journal about them. So please say hello in the chat box and tell us if you've ever seen migrating salmon or trout. So I'm so excited to share this topic with you. It's kind of last minute because I was just out hiking at our wild and scenic Metolius River, which is a world-class fly fishing river. And it's world-class because it's been restored. So many of the habitats here in Central Oregon were decimated by extensive logging in the early 1900s. And so all the rivers were really muddy and denuded and toxic, or they had been diverted. And so there's been a lot of restoration going on in Oregon and in Northern California. So that's what I want to talk about today and show you some of my drawings. And we're going to do a sketching and journaling exercise. So thanks so much for joining me. Hello, David, and other live and replay viewers. So if you're joining me today, you may have already downloaded my handout, the Nature Journal page recipe. I'm going to be going through that today too. Now, you can follow along with your art supplies, or if you just want to watch, that's fine too. I'll be just using some simple supplies like a sketching pencil and some pens and a little touch of watercolor. And I'll probably be using my, my book here so I can draw nice and big for you guys. And so again, you can follow along as I demonstrate how I would do a nature journal page, like in the field, and also learning about salmon. So hello, Nanette. Thanks for joining from the Blue Ridge Mountains. So again, I'd love to know if you've ever seen any wild salmon or trout. Now, I want to, let's see, how do I share these? So there we go. There's a beautiful one. So I'm going to be chatting about a couple different species we have in Oregon, which are also actually really widespread. And in some areas, they're endangered of extinction. In some areas, they're coming back. And they're all also enjoyed for fly fishing, both catch and release, and for eating because they're tasty on the menu and really healthy for you. And so I just really wanted to share some good news today. You know, so many things are happening in this world that are really scary and stressful. And so sharing some good conservation news is what I wanted to do. And then, of course, doing a therapeutic nature sketching and journaling practice. So in case you haven't met me before, hi, I'm Christine Elder, and I'm a naturalist, environmental educator, and visual artist. And I live here in Central Oregon. And I teach both in person and online. And my focus is really combining nature education and wildlife conservation and appreciation with nature sketching and journaling. Because if you slow down enough to observe something and draw something instead of just walking by it or taking a casual photo, then you'll really learn to appreciate and understand those a lot better. And so I wanted to share, let's see, where am I here? Wanted to make sure I'm live. Looks like I'm live. Okay, good, good. So if you've got your art supplies, go ahead and get those. But I'm going to be chatting a bit. First, let's see, how am I going to do this? Here we go. Let's see. I've got too many buttons here and too many. Let's see. Let's make this bigger. Okay, there we go. Yeah. So we're mainly going to be talking about and sketching two species of salmon. One is this beautiful salmon that I illustrated for an interpretive project because I am a professional scientific illustrator. And these guys are the Chinooks. And then we're also going to be drawing the sockeye salmon. And so what we're talking about, let's see, where are we here? I've got too many things here. So salmon and trout are really closely related. And there are many species, and they're particularly widespread in the northern hemisphere. But many of them face extinction because of habitat loss and climate change and not, what do we call it, degradation of their habitats. But we are really lucky here in Oregon. And the reason I'm chatting today is because we've got some really good news, okay? And so here we are. If you don't know where we are in the world, some of you visiting here. So we are in North America, and we're right here in the Pacific Northwest, and right about there at the edge, the northern edge of California and the southern edge of Oregon. And so what's been going on is the Klamath River is a very large watershed that dumps out here in Northern California and comes all the way up here to Klamath Lake and beyond. And there's been some historic, it's just weird for me to not be seeing you. Let me see, how can I do this? There we go. Well, you can't see both. So just last year, the largest dam removal project in U.S. history happened, and 4 major dams were removed from the Klamath River watershed. And that opened up over 400 miles of habitat. And so this was a huge project, and it cost over $500 million. And so the fish here, these fish are now able to return. In fact, it only took a week for them to return after the last of the 4 dams were removed on the Klamath River. So that's hundreds of miles. And so it's just amazing to think that actually since it's been since 1909, basically, when the dams were begun, that these fish couldn't migrate. And so how they remembered to do that is just amazing. Now, salmon always return to the same rivers that they were born in. And so it's amazing that they could do that. Now, no individual lives 109 years, but their descendants were somehow able to keep reproducing and to some extent and to return. So we're so excited about that. And so that historic dam removal was finished last October. And again, within a week, salmon were returning. And it was 400 miles of habitat and 360 river miles that these fish were able to come back up. Now, this year, just a couple weeks ago, we got even better news that they reached all the way up to the headwaters of the Williamson River. So those tributaries that go into the major Klamath all support salmon as well. And these guys usually want to lay their eggs in these shallow streams that are way upstream. Yeah, so it just took, let me see, where am I here? Where am I? Yeah. So these guys have returned and now they're spawning. And so we're going to talk about these first, and then we'll go and talk about the others, the sockeye salmon that live in another river that's been restored for quite a while. So they had to, in the past, try to pass a gauntlet of fish ladders on the dams, which were really inadequate and really didn't work, and toxic waters that were really stagnant, and fishermen. And so now they're much happier and much better. So it's amazing too that the native cultures, the native tribes are still here and still fighting as well to return these guys, because they're still really low in numbers. But I think, where did I see? At least 200 had returned this year. And so there are native tribes, the Klamath tribe, the Modoc tribe, and in Northern California, the Hoopas and the Yurok. These fishes were part of their indigenous culture for thousands and thousands of years. And they had eaten these as their primary diet, as well as freshwater mussels and crayfish that they also got from the rivers. And so it's just wonderful to have them back. As a scientific illustrator, I was excited to be part of a interpretive panel project talking about the Sacramento River and these fish that were returning. So all of these drawings that I'm going to show you and we're going to sketch from were from this project. And so, yeah, it's just really good news, really emotional, really gratifying. But there's bad news too, because the current administration, of course, has taken away a lot of the funding for restoring these habitats. It's going to be about 10 years to continue restoring the denuded hillsides that were previously covered by the water in the dams, because, of course, the rivers are a lot lower. So it's going to be 10 years, and a lot of the local indigenous peoples are in work parties planting thousands and thousands of trees on these denuded slopes to stabilize them and also to help cool the water and add more nutrients to the water. Okay, so anyway, yeah, let's get our sketching stuff in case you want to sketch along with me. And we're gonna, let's see, we're gonna, oh, that's really uneven. Let me make this all the way big now and try to get it centered. This is always the challenging part, is getting this thing centered. So you get your art supplies together. Let's see. Oh, there we go. That's a little bit more centered. Okay. And so on this side of the page, I'm going to talk about, and we're going to sketch the first species, the Chinook salmon. And so I've got a few different fun materials. And so let's see. So how could we call this? The miraculous? No, it's not really miraculous because we actually planned it. The government and conservation groups planned this. The joyful, let's just say the joyful return. You can call it whatever you want. Okay, so these are Chinook salmon. And so my handwriting is just going to be terrible. You probably have better handwriting, but I hurt myself recently, so I can't really write. So anyway, we're going to talk about their return. And again, we're talking about this part of the world. And so I think the first thing I might do is draw a little map. And so let's see. And you can put your map wherever you want. I'm going to have Oregon here. And your maps don't have to be beautiful. And California is kind of like this. California. And so they are migrating. Let's see, do I have a blue? It's fun to use different colors here. I don't know where all my colors are. Well, I'll make it green because river water is really more green than blue. So they're kind of coming from here and up to this part of Oregon. And that's the Klamath River. So they're coming to the Klamath River. You can't see that, can you? No, you can't see that. So the Klamath River is one of the largest rivers dumping out on the West Coast, besides the Columbia River. And we'll be talking about that over here when we draw the beautiful sockeye salmon. But here, I want to talk more about the and draw the life cycle. And so I've been studying Spanish lately. So I bought this book that's all in Spanish about nature so that I can really learn concepts and words that I want to learn. Now, I'm not going to read to you in Spanish, but this is just the best graphic that I have right now. And so I'm going to be showing you some better pictures of these stages that we can draw. But just to show you now that these fish spend several years in the ocean getting big and strong. And then depending on the species, they return. So the Chinook and the sockeye we're talking about returning in the fall. And they're going to go all the way up the river, up to where they were born, very close to where they were born. And somehow they can smell that. And as they're doing that, they have to have their bodies adapt from living in salt water to living in fresh water. Can you imagine that? And so they're going to come all the way up here. And in some cases, that can be up to 1,000 miles, depending on the watershed. Like if you're in the Columbia or the Snake River, some of those major rivers, it's 1,000 miles for them to swim. But in this case, they come up 360 river miles on the Klamath River. And then they're going to lay their eggs, and then the eggs are going to hatch into these different stages. And then they're going to come back after a few years down to the ocean, and again have to change from living in fresh water to salt water. And so that's just the graphic right there. And so let's just draw these parts. And I like to just draw things kind of casual, and pretending we're, in the field. And so let's look at their life cycle. And since it's a cycle, you could start it anywhere. But here are the eggs that I drew. Again, these are drawings that I made as part of a 9-panel series in California, in Sacramento's, is it Clear Creek tributary? But it's the same idea of these Chinook completing their life cycle. So you start, or somewhere, you can start with eggs. So you've got your eggs. And so you can see in this case, you can see the little baby fish developing. You can even see little eyeballs. And I use these waterproof pens that I can add color to later. And so again, I'm just going to make this kind of small, and I'll just have some eggs overlapping here. We don't have to do a whole bunch. And I might just make a little baby one in there that you could see. Okay. And tell me in the chat box if you're following along. I'd love to know. And then, so they go from eggs, then they hatch. And here's my drawing of the hatchlings. And they're called, and I just love to color code things. So first we start with the eggs, and then we go to the sac fry, because because they still have this sac attached to them that's got a lot of nutrients that they're going to use in the first few weeks of life. So if you want to try to just draw one of those guys, and again, this can just be really symbolic. They've got a super big eye, and then just a body, and then this big sac. Like that. That's really bad. But anyways, and you can see that that there's blood vessels in here and it's sort of see-through. And so they're going to hatch. Now, the mother, here's the mother. So she laid those eggs, and we're not going to draw her too, but she is incredible. Those salmon are incredible. Now, she'd pretty much more be like this. So what she's going to do is when she comes up the river with the male, she's going to do all the hard work. She's going to be using her tail to dig a nest, which is called a red. And we could actually, well, we'll do that at the end. Yeah, we'll do that at the end. Yeah, let's talk about her more at the end. I'm getting confused. Okay, so these guys are growing. And then next, they're going to be what we call pars. And P-A-R, I think it's one R. And I'm just going to draw just a little fishy here, a little fish shape. And we don't have to get all that stuff there. But the most important, they're called pars because they have these, what we call par marks on them. And that's kind of these marks on the side. And those marks help to camouflage them because there's a lot of predators that are trying to eat them at this stage. This is just a few weeks after they're born, or months. I forget the exact number of weeks. It depends on the species. But they're going to be living in the river. And if it's one of those restored, healthy rivers, there's going to be a lot of downed logs in the river that they can hide under. And in fact, when conservation groups go in and restore a river, that's one of the things they do is they drag some dead trees into the river and lay them across the river and along the edges so that it's shadier for them. So the water is cooler, and it also gives them a place to hide from predators, because there's lots of things like ospreys and other fish and snakes, raccoons, all kinds of things that would like to eat these guys. Okay. And then next, we have the smolts. These are some really big drawings. I can't remember why I drew two of them because they're the same thing. But anyway, so they've lost their par marks. And these guys are the ones that are going to get ready to go down to the ocean. And so here, I'll just put them there. So next we have our smolt. So these guys, if they're lucky to have lived this long, they're going to start heading to the ocean. And that'll take quite a while. And then they have to hang out in a, we're not going to get this very realistic, but they have to hang out in an estuary to get used to the water changing from fresh to salt water. Okay. So how we doing? Are we following along? Tell me in the chat box. Not sure if I can see your chat. I think I can. Yeah, I can see both Facebook and YouTube chats. So tell me if you're following along. And yeah, if I'm going too fast. We do have a lot to cover. All righty. So those are the smolts. And then as they grow up, they're going to go to the ocean. And so we're going to have the adults in the ocean. And you see the difference. The males get this beautiful coloration on them. And in the sockeye salmon, it's even more beautiful. We'll draw that one later. So anyway, they're in the ocean for basically for years. Okay. And then they return, so they migrate. And then that is both the males and the females are going to return. Again, they have to spend a little bit of time in estuaries, getting used to switching again from salt to fresh water. But all they're going to think about now is migrating. They're really not going to eat much. They're just going to keep going. And it's amazing how they can get up the, let's see, where can we show this? There we go. It's amazing how they can get up the river. Now, this picture is the sockeye, and we'll talk about him later with this beautiful red coloration. But they are going to be fighting all kinds of things. They're going to be fighting to avoid predators like bears and raccoons and osprey and bald eagles and other fish. And they're just single-mindedly trying to get back to their natal stream. And so, yeah. So we'll just get another one there. And then let's see. And then there's just too many screens here. Here we go. So now we have the female doing all the hard work. And so they're going to be laying their eggs. They're going to be reproducing. And so they're going to be laying their eggs. So I just was so lucky to watch this with a sockeye salmon just a couple weeks ago. And so she's going to be, actually, let's make her like this. Okay. So you can look at her. And yeah, actually, why don't we draw her bigger? I got these so big. You just draw that. I can't draw her at the same time here. But so she is going to be digging this red. So a red, R-E-D-D, that's their nest. Okay. And so, yeah, so she's going to be digging that, and she's going to be kind of like this. And let's see, I'm going to get her like this. It's kind of hard to like draw and talk at the same time. So let's make some swish marks. And you can make her look really tired. And so she's going to be digging this nest. So we'll just put that there. So I'll give this one. So she's actually going to be digging a red that can be several feet long and wide. And she'll be then laying several hundred eggs. And the adult male will be putting his sperm on top of it to fertilize them. And then as soon as that happens, she's going to cover the eggs up with her tail. And so you can imagine how much work that is. And once they've done this, they're going to be really tired and near death. And they will have pretty much worn off a bunch of their tail and their fins, and they'll start to lose their skin. And then they will die. So they only do this once in their life. They only do this once in their life. And so they're really putting all their eggs in one basket. And they are going to be starting to lose the skin on their tail. And you can see this in the rivers like I did last week. Yeah, so it's kind of sad. I actually saw some of them floating away, dying. But yeah, she put all of her eggs in this nest here. And again, we're back to the eggs. Where is that picture? So here are the eggs that she laid. And yeah, as soon as they've dug that red and laid those eggs, then death is not far off. And then we go right back here. That's the cycle. Isn't that amazing? Okay. Now, I forgot. Let's see. What am I saying? Oh, yeah. So while they're growing up, especially the pars and the smolts, they have to be eating, right? And here's one of the cool things that they eat. They have to have a lot of really healthy freshwater invertebrates to eat. So they are eating things like these caddisflies that normally live in a big case, but you can see how big and fat these are, kind of like a caterpillar. So they have a lot of protein in them. So they're going to be eating all kinds of stuff. So they're going to be eating caddisflies, stoneflies, mayflies, dragonflies, all of those things. And you really have to have a healthy ecosystem. There's got to be water that's running fresh for them, for both the fish and the aquatic invertebrates. So the water has to be running. And when water is running and turbulent, like the picture I showed you of the jumping salmon, that adds a lot of oxygen to the water. And so the animals really need oxygen, of course. And so the fresh rushing water also helps to bring nutrients that have fallen in the water from like decomposing plants and even decomposing animals. And when they get older, they might even eat little worms and other fish and crawdads and that kind of thing. So this is a drawing I did of one of those, what we call benthic macroinvertebrates. Now, some of these things, well, actually all of these things, they just spend part of their life in the river and then they hatch. And when they're hatching, the fish also love to eat those, especially the pars and smolts and adults. And when you're fly fishing, that's called fly fishing because the fishermen make flies like this to look like a caddis or a stone or a mayfly or a dragonfly, so that they can emulate or simulate what these guys look like. Okay, now I think I actually try to show you. Let me see if I can show you something really cool. Just a sec. I got lots of, here it is. Just a moment here. I don't know if you can hear that. It's pretty loud. And then that's fly angling. So this is a perfect example of a super healthy river. And so now we're going to move on to the next species and chat about it. And so this species lives like we're showing here. I have too many things open here. This species, let me show the really handsome one. So this is the species we're talking about now, the Kokanee salmon, which is a landlocked salmon. And so we'll just talk about him some more in a moment. But I did want to just show this again. So this is the Nicolet River in Central Oregon. and it goes into Lake Billy Chinook, and then it goes into the Chinook River and then the Columbia River out to the ocean. So isn't that amazing? So I'm going to remove that and then bring that back. And so we're going to draw a little bit about that one next. And so look at how beautiful this one is. And so these guys are called the sockeye or kokanee. And basically, the kokanee salmon are ones that are landlocked. So in previous millennia, especially during the ice ages, the ice cut off some river systems from the ocean, and fish could no longer migrate that had normally migrated, like the life cycle that we were just talking about. And so they became landlocked, but they still somehow evolved to be able to live in a big lake during most of their life instead of a river. And then they would migrate up a smaller river or creek that was attached to that lake. And so they became landlocked. So anyway, some of them now are landlocked from dams, but they are able to still migrate. So this is a beautiful, beautiful fish. So we're going to draw a little bit bigger one here. So they look kind of similar, but they're smaller. But they look similar to these Chinook, but they're smaller and they taste a bit different, I'm told. They taste a little bit more steak-like. I don't know. That's what I've been told. But anyway, they're very popular for fishing. And also the males and females look different. The females look a lot like the female of Chinook, which is all green. And that's going to help her stay camouflaged. But males of many species, like birds and fish, will turn color to attract females and to show how healthy they are, because the brighter their color, those colors relate to the nutrients in their food, especially in the ocean. So the males of the kokanee or sockeye salmon will get just this amazing, amazing green and red. And so we'll do those in color. Also, when the males are migrating, they get this long hooked nose. And then they have these giant teeth as well, which is amazing. So yeah, so they, let's see, let me show this now. Okay, so now we're going to do these guys. And so where are we now? We are talking about, I just don't have the right pen here. In the Metolius, kind of hard to spell. So this is a national wild and scenic river. And I grew up on a wild and scenic river in California. Oops, I misspelled that. So where we are now, actually, let's do Oregon a little bit bigger so we can show. So this is Oregon. So we're in Central Oregon. Now these guys are in more places, of course. The sockeye and kokanee are native throughout the Pacific Northwest, and they even get over to Russia and Japan, which has some very famous fly fishing as well. So what we're talking about is, let's see, where can we, I live right here, basically in the middle, and that's kind of where they are. So the Metolius is here, and then it dumps into Lake Billy Chinook. So we have the Metolius, and then Lake Billy Chinook has like Chinook salmon because there are several species of salmon and trout. Lake Billy Chinook. And then that dumps into the Deschutes River, which goes by my house. And then that goes into the Columbia. So basically we go here, and then the border of Oregon is actually the Columbia River. Can highlight that more to make it more interesting. And so this part is where you can fish for them and watch them. Let's see, Carolyn, hello. Thanks for joining us. You've seen salmon in Alaska going up small falls. Very interesting. Yes, so it's just crazy how they can do that. And again, if I switch over here, so these guys can go all the way up to the headwaters. In fact, it's really pretty important that they are in a very specific habitat. It's got to be pretty shallow, and the water's got to be running over a specific size of gravel, because the gravel can't be too big that it's too hard for the female to use her tail, right? She has to use her tail to dig that nest or that red. So the gravel's got to be just perfect, not too big or not too small. And so it's got to be small enough that she can physically dig that red and then cover that back up. But it's got to be big enough so that water can go through that and aerate those eggs, because just like adults, the eggs need fresh oxygenated water to go over them. And so it's super important to have a very specific size. So now what happens is 100 years ago, when all of these rivers were heavily logged, all of that sediment came into the rivers. Now this happens in a lot of places where we've had terrible wildfires too, like in California and Oregon and throughout the West, where there's these steep slopes and they're denuded of their native vegetation. So all of that sediment that was being held by the ancient trees and shrubs and bushes, that goes into the river. And that those small fine sediments tend to cement that whole part of the gravel that you can see right there. You can see where the fish is, and they are unable to dig their red. It's just like trying to dig a hole in a paved road. So that's one of the many reasons that removing vegetation from the slopes above a river is really deleterious. Now, I forgot to kind of tell you that one of the main reasons that I love salmon and are interested in them is that in college, I spent a whole summer doing a field project in northern Idaho in the wilderness, and we were studying in the endangered cutthroat, West Slope cutthroat trout. And so I learned about and saw the effects of clear cutting, especially on national forests. It was very unregulated. And nowadays, with our current government, it's becoming unregulated again. So the salmon and trout are really facing new challenges. So as a biologist, I spent many years working in the field in different types of projects with different types of wildlife and plants, and seeing these issues right up close. Okay, so anyway, let's go back now. I've been talking too much. Let's go back to the beautiful salmon. Okay, so let's draw him. And I don't know how to, for some reason, I can't get my drawing and him big and get rid of my face, because if I get rid of my face, that gets rid of my audio for some reason. But anyway, I'm just gonna let you draw him. So, because I'm too small here. Great. And then I'll just show you my sketch at the end. So I'm going to fill up the rest of my page with just a nicer, bigger drawing of this guy and maybe even add some color. I did want to not keep you for more than an hour. I know my schedule said 2 hours, but that's kind of long. David says never too much. Cool. Okay, so anyway, so this is the adult male spawning sockeye salmon. So I'm going to put that right here. And as they are maturing in the lake after a few years and getting ready to go, they will have these changes of turning the bright green head, the bright red body, and there's a big hump on their back too. And then a long snout that's kind of hooked with teeth. So this is the kokanee, but anyway, the sockeye looks very similar. So I'm just going to be sketching him. Tell me in the chat box, you live viewers, if you want this picture of him all the way big, or do you want to see my sketch, my process sketching as well? Just tell me. That's one of the good things about if you attend live is you get to help decide. So I'm just going to do the big hump and his big snout first. Nanette says she wants to see my sketch too. Okay, let me see. Okay, I'm going to do that. And again, sorry that we can't get rid of the picture of me. Okay, so I'm just going to start with his snout and then the forehead and that big hump. And then it looks like he's kind of swishing his tail, kind of like this. So we just see a bit of the tail and then kind of like that. Okay, and then the rest of his mouth. And the eyeball. I probably have my proportions all wrong. And they do have a hole here for their snout, their nostrils. Again, they have a really good sense of smell. They have to smell their natal river and somehow recognize it. And I'm not sure how they recognize rivers once they've been polluted. You see the inside of his mouth and then his kind of lower jaw, chin. He looks like he's smiling. And then gets smaller. Right, there we go. And yeah, I think we see a bit of the tail there. All righty, how are my proportions? I just never know how to do this. Sorry. There he is. So yeah, so that big long snout, and they've got these kind of teeth that you can't see very well. And then they have a bunch of fins. We're not going to go into anatomy of that too much, but there's going to be a dorsal fin. There's going to be a special fin that only salmon and trout have. It's called the adipose fin, and it's kind of this fatty fin right back here. And that's actually often cut off in fishes that are from hatcheries. So you can tell the difference because there's lots of rules about what you can keep and what you cannot keep. And so I think I got that too far forward. So, and that dorsal fin can raise and lower, of course, to help him swim. So that dorsal fin, then the adipose fin, and then we have the pectoral fin kind of coming out here. And then we can't really see those pelvic fin and the anal fin. Those are kind of over here. And then can't forget the gill openings like that. Okay. I think mine head is too big. All righty. Okay, and then I think I'm going to add some color for fun because it just got such beautiful colors. And this is one of my field sets, my palettes. And here's all the colors. So we're going to want kind of a deep hooker's green for the head, and then a beautiful red for the body, Windsor red probably. And so I'm going to add that. And usually I will carry this little spray bottle with me that I can spray on my paints to kind of wake them up. And so it's nice and small. I can carry that in the field. And I'm going to use one of my small brushes that has water in it already. And so let's see. I really wish I knew how to get all three of these. Well, I guess that's the closest we can get. So yeah, and then there's some unpigmented part inside of his mouth and on his jaw. And then he's actually got a really beautiful sort of a golden eye with the black pupil. So yeah, I'm just going to add this. And again, I'm just going to kind of have fun with this. And I'm just not going to make this too wet because this isn't watercolor paper. And so I'm going to kind of add more pigment and not too wet because we don't want it to wrinkle. I want to leave that eyeball. I want to get that gold eyeball. And so this is just how I would work in the field, just nice and easy. And there's some different, I'm going to add a little bit of purplish here. There's some different pigment here that I'm noticing. And then there's the pigment on the nostril. And yeah, pigment of the on the jaw and the gills. And just, I like to just layer a little bit. There's even a little bit of gold on top here. But I can just go back and forth and just make that richer. And then the beautiful red. So I see it's kind of pink on top, and I like to always start a little gaudier and brighter than I'm going to end up. So I'm going to start with some pink and kind of be careful not to touch, especially up here where the sun is shining more. That's going to be brighter. But as these guys finish spawning, and they've especially the female after she's dug her red, a lot of the skin is going to fall off, and you're going to see white spots on the skin. And it's pretty sad, but you know, they've sacrificed their whole life for their babies that they don't even get to guarantee that they're going to live. So what else do we have? I don't know what happened. Oh, here it is. Oh boy, that's really red. So I just layer this kind of stuff. If I don't like it, I'll just put another layer of something else in there. And I even see some of this kind of purpley in here. Maybe some more pink. Isn't this fun? And I'll just blend that together. And there's a pretty sharp demarcation between the head and the body. And I see some shadows that are kind of this purplish. Maybe it's because he's kind of turned a little bit. And, we're going to want to make this back here a little bit less bright because it's farther away from us, just to make it settle down a bit. And yeah, we'll make the front closer to us, a little bit brighter. I even see a bit of, maybe yeah, it's kind of, there's some warmth in there that I can add with a little bit of gold on top. It's getting pretty. And then the fins don't have as much pigment. Let's see. Maybe I'll do just a little bit of a blackish, purplish blackish. Oops, I don't want to make that so bright. And then the tail. And you can see there's a little bit of green on the tail too. Oh, that looks fun. And then let's see. The mouth. There's a little bit of gray. Let's see, is this gray? A little bit inside the mouth. Gonna strengthen this darkness a bit. Oh yeah, and his teeth. And let's see. Yeah, the lower jaw is pretty much unpigmented. Oh yeah, I want to get some gold in his eye. That's pretty. Fun. Let's see how we're doing here. Let me see if I can get that bigger. There he is so far. Now, again, there's a difference between this guy that I'm doing as if I'm sketching on a log in the field, watching them swim by, versus these drawings, which I do, in the studio. They take hours and hours with more of a dry brush technique and a different kind of watercolor, different kind of watercolor paper. So, there's a really difference between quick field sketching and scientific illustration. But I love field sketching. And so, yeah, what else do we want to put on here? I think I'm going to give him a little bit more shadow. And I will often wear this little sock on my hand. This is a cheating little thing that Jack Laws kind of invented. And what am I doing here? I want to make the river. Gosh, the river looks like got a lot of gold in it because it's quite shallow. And you can really tell, even if the fish aren't there, you can tell where they've dug their redds. And I really saw this the other day on the Metolius, is that a river will generally, have some algae in it and some little rocks that are covered in mosses and algae. But when the salmon go through and dig their redds, that area is going to be lighter colored. It's going to be more of a bluish gray. Let's see, can I make a bluish gray? Maybe I'll do that here. So I'm going to pretend this guy just finished laying his, putting his sperm over the female on the red. And so it's a little bit lighter, but then the surrounding area is going to be kind of some different colors. And again, we can see that here. So you can see this isn't a picture where the red is laid, because again, that would be a lot lighter because there wouldn't be any algae or, micro fauna or flora in there. So I'm just going to look at this. It's kind of, yeah, there's some sort of gold in there and green. So I'm just going to surround my guy with some of that. Now, these fish are so important to the ecosystems, both ocean ecosystems where they're eaten by orcas and sea lions and sharks, but also to the river ecosystems where they're eaten as they're dying by, like the famous brown bears in Alaska, to raccoons and ospreys and bald eagles. And as their bodies are decomposing, all those nutrients then are just going to go back into that river and be used by the algae and such. Now I'm just adding some of those rocks. And yeah, what's really interesting is there have been studies where scientists studied the trees and vegetation at certain numbers of feet or meters inland from the stream, and they could still find the nutrients from the fish. Like, what would you call it? There was markers for their, sorry, when I'm drawing, I lose my ability to talk. Okay, so let's share this again. Where are we at here? So I'm just giving him some emphasis to his eye and his nose and the gills. And then maybe I'll do a few lines here for the fin rays. And back here a little bit. And you see I added a little bit of a color. It's going to be really different, as you saw in that video, depending on the depth and whether it's shady or sunny and what kind of geology we have. But man, I'm going to make his teeth really big and spooky because they are pretty big. Not that they're really eating much as they're migrating. And I think he needs a little bit more of a shadow underneath him. Oh, I'm going to give him a purple shadow. That's fun. Can't be purple because then it will be the same as this. And then that's too dry. You see, I don't really worry too much about perfectionism. And of course, when I'm talking, it's a lot harder to be in your right brain and talk and draw at the same time. Give him a little bit more shadow too at the bottom part of his body here. Oops, that was too much. See, there does get to be a time when you work on something too much. But I did see sort of these marks on his side. And yeah, I want to just emphasize his face coming right towards us. It's a lot closer. And let's see, I can even get some highlights. So they are really shiny. When something is wet with smooth skin, they're going to be really shiny. So, you could always add something like a Uniposca pen and give some highlights. Of course, you want to be careful. Maybe some highlights on the gills and above the mouth and on the teeth, maybe on the snout and on the body here. There might even be some curves highlights on the top fin maybe. But we'd want to keep those highlights just sort of in the front, again, to emphasize that he's coming towards us. I think that's good. Okay. So you can always add a lot more things based on what we've been chatting about or your own research. I'm going to give you a link to the dam removal article that talks about the return of the salmon. But I did give you a link in my email. If you're on my email list, hopefully you are, because that's probably how you got the email about today's event. But you could always add other things here, like more words, more drawings, numbers like size, symbols, and different prompts. So I really suggest that you download my Nature Journal page recipe. And if you're watching and you don't have a link to that, just tell me and in the chat in Facebook or YouTube, and I'll send you that link. Yeah. So, oh yeah. So let me put that in the chat box. I'm not sure if that's going to work for everybody, but I'm going to put that link in there. And it's an article. It's an article from Oregon Public Broadcasting, OPB, interviewing a tribal member. I believe that's the one, talking about the salmon coming back this month, even farther than they ever have. The Chinook salmon up to the headwaters of the Klamath River, over 300 miles. They had to swim. So that's just such good news. And it's just really emotional, and I feel so grateful about it. And we're really lucky to have those guys coming back to us. Get that out of the way. Yeah. So anyway, here's my messy page. Yours might be better, but here's my messing page. So we were talking about the Chinook salmon on the Klamath River. And then we were talking about the sockeyes or kokanees on the wild and scenic Metolius River. Now, I want to give you a couple more links. Tomorrow, I'm doing my normal sketching, nature sketching, which is a little bit simpler than today. It's just based on stuff I find around. And there's the StreamYard link to that. And that's tomorrow at 10, and we'll be drawing things I found that are fruiting in the forest, as well as fruits that are related to autumn and Thanksgiving. And then lastly, I wanted to share the link to the program that I'm part of. It's called the Art Bundles for Good, and that's the very last link I just put in there. And that's a program where they're giving 25% of their proceeds to charity. And so that's one of the reasons I'm one of the artists. There's almost 100 of us artists who've donated some of our favorite courses to the program. And it's only $109 for, I think, almost 100 classes. Now, you don't have to get overwhelmed and say, I don't have time for 100 classes, because each of those classes, many of them sell for almost $100 just on their own, like my class on discovering and sketching seashells. So you only have to choose a few of the classes to get your money's worth. And the Art Bundles for Good covers a lot of nature things. If you guys are following me, you probably love nature. And so there's a class on drawing or painting clouds, on doing landscapes, on doing still lifes. There's a couple classes on painting and or sketching birds and owls and raccoons and a giraffe. And then there's other projects on Yeah, there's even a fellow artist here in Oregon that's teaching about birds. So it's a really neat program. And of course, you get a money back guarantee. And that's only on sale until Monday. So today's Saturday. It's only on sale till midnight East Coast time on Monday. And this only goes on sale once, or I think sometimes maybe twice a year. And again, they donate 25% of their proceeds to charity. And I think the owner, John Bardos, said that they've raised over $150,000 for charity over the last few years. So I hope you'll check that out. I have talked about that on both my YouTube channel and on this Facebook channel in previous posts. So you can click on that and learn more about it. But it's just a smorgasbord of classes. And again, like I said, I'm doing my class on learning about seashells and how to draw them and how to identify them. But there's a lot of other pretty well-known online educators and artists like me that are part of the program. So you get a lot of different styles. There's like more realism, like I try to do. There's symbolism and abstract and intuitive drawing and painting. And there's lots of different media. There's watercolors like we did today. I think there's acrylics. One class is on gouache, which is a really fun medium. It's like watercolors, but has more opacity to it. There's classes on collage and mixed media. I think there's a class on even bookbinding, so making your own journal. Let's see, what else? Let me look at my list. Class on colored pencils and charcoal pencils. There's classes on landscapes and plein air painting, making mandalas if you're more into that. So there's a whole smorgasbord of classes in the Art Bundles for Good that range from really more scientific, detailed, realistic drawings to more abstract, symbolic drawings and paintings. So anyway, I've kept you for a bit over an hour. I do try to not keep you longer than that. So I hope you enjoyed following along. I forgot to ask, does anybody want to share? People are usually pretty shy, but I'm going to put this link in the chat box just in case. The very last link that says StreamYard.com. And if you're a live viewer, you can click on that. And I believe if you have the right audio and video, you could share and ask a question or share your sketches you have so far. I know we did go pretty quickly, but we did talk about, again, the return of the Chinook salmon to the Klamath River. First time in 100 years. This is the biggest dam removal project in U.S. history, removing 4 major dams on the Klamath River and opening up over 300 miles of habitat to migrating salmon and trout, like these guys, the Chinook. And so we talked about the general life cycle here. And then we talked about this beautiful, my favorite colored salmon, the Kokanee or landlocked sockeye salmon, which has this gorgeous green and red body. And so I hope you enjoyed following along. And if you didn't follow along live, you can always gather your materials, just whatever combination of pens and pencils and colored pencils and watercolors you like. And you could watch the replay and do that. But thank you so much for joining me in my joy of being able to watch these salmon migrating this month and last month here in Central Oregon, returning to their historic homes, back to restored habitats in our mixed conifer forests that they had been coming to for tens of thousands of years. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you had a little break from the stress of daily life and got to do just a little bit of sketching. And if you are one of my students in the Nature Nook or the Nature Notebook Club, you get access to my multi-page handout that shows you lots of pictures of salmon to sketch from. So if you're in those programs, you know where to find those links. Okay, well, I'm going to get going. Again, thank you so much for joining me today for learning about sockeye and Chinook salmon and their life cycles and their importance to aquatic ecosystems, and doing a little sketching and painting of them. So thanks for joining me, live viewers like Nanette and Todd and other folks with email addresses I don't recognize. And thank you for joining me, and I hope to see you again soon. Okay, take care. Bye.